everybody, this is Texas Gaming Industries here, and welcome back to Railway Empire. In the previous episode, we began building our entire railroad empire, and today, we are basically going to be expanding. I believe we'll basically start expanding southwards towards Jacksonville, and then we'll focus on expanding to the Midwest in the next part. And now that I think about it, there's a sugar farm very close to Pittsburgh, so what's the point of building a line from this there if it's not gonna do so well? Besides, the sugar farm near Pittsburgh will basically be a lot more closer. And now, we have a much better supplier for sugar. Oh, and the new locomotive, the John Hancock, is now available, which will really help out in the rural industries. And we made over $134,000 from the previous year. Well, we basically made this amount of money. We didn't even start our railroad back in 1829. So basically, our railroad is making a decent profit. However, considering the John Hancock is faster, I will be losing my express status on my steam the grasshopper locomotives between Washington and New York. Alright, so now let's focus on the expansion to Charlotte, because there's a good reason. Near Charlotte is a cotton plantation, which could basically be really useful on producing cotton for my railroad to be made into textiles, which is a commodity that will be sought after once my cities start growing. But that will require $157,000 to do so. And now, we have connected 10 stations to our rail network. We'll basically expand the station in Washington to increase more trains coming in, but for now, a 2-track station is all we need. Now that we got the track to Charlotte connected, we'll also build a double track. I technically normally prefer building double track on my entire system between cities and industries, but reserving a single track to connect to industries, basically. Plus, I also thought about connecting the wood farm, the logging camp here, and delivering it to Washington, because logs will basically be a commodity that Washington really needs. And, with logs being delivered to Washington, the population will grow very rapidly. Because the city is now at 30,000 residents, and to make textiles, I'll need about... well, we already got it. That's quick. I think you basically need them about 30,500 residents. That means I basically have enough to basically start producing it. And since I have taken out 2 bonds, I'm gonna basically replace it with a weaving factory. Now, I can take raw cotton from the plantation and deliver it to Charlotte. And there, it will be processed into textiles, and then take it to Washington, where I'll later put in a clothing factory. Just replace the signals on this section of track here. I always like to put signals just before bridges, because why would you put a signal on a wooden trestle bridge? especially since locomotives later on will get heavier and bigger. I do not want an engine to fall off a bridge and into the river or into a lake. Plus, there's a grain farm and a vegetable farm right next to each other, so I could transport both grain and vegetables to Washington. Once Washington earns about 37,500 residents, of course. But in the meantime, I'd rather run a passenger service between Charlotte and Washington. But the passenger service is going to start off in Washington. And one of my locomotives has finally reached a speed record, 21 miles an hour for one of my John Hancock class locomotives. And Baldwin's iron size is a success, which basically means that American locomotives are going to now be produced in America. And look at that, we made $403,000. We basically had increased our earnings by $259,000. And we also required our first new train personnel, a security guard, Bella Shoemaker. Bella Shoemaker, being a security guard, will basically keep my trains from being attacked by bandits, which are sent out by my competitors. But since my competitors are not available on this game, I basically turned them off. She will basically increase the amount of money we earn by 5%. Basically, she works as a security guard on passenger trains and as a brakeman on freight trains. And to make sure passengers are interested in traveling, I'll decrease the price for passenger service between Washington and Charlotte to an $82 per ticket. And we also require our second security guard, Miss Stella Dalton. And looking at my trains, I believe the one between Pittsburgh and New York is the most profitable, so I'm going to put in on that. And now, with enough capital, we can basically start expanding again. We'll connect the Moore Farm. Well, I believe the Moore Farm is the vegetable or the grain farm. I think it's the vegetable farm. I was right. We'll connect the two industries by rail. Add some passing sign. Add some signals there. Then connect to the main line this way. So later on, when Charlotte gets big enough, I can basically deliver, well, vegetables to Charlotte. But Charlotte still needs grain, though. Since platform 2 is close to the grain farm, I'm just gonna basically operate a train with grain there. Put a G there for grain, and put a John Hancock in service. And then put this on track 1 and carry vegetables, no grain. And now the city is big enough for vegetables. Perfect. And add the V right there for vegetables, so it will be easy for me to check which train is running on which track. And we also earn enough points to unlock one of our technologies, the speedometer. We still don't have enough for the newest engine, the John Bull, but we might be able to get it soon. Add a maintenance building there to keep my engines in good condition, and operate a freight train between Charlotte and Washington, so Charlotte can basically receive beer. And look at that! Some cotton has already arrived in Charlotte, and now, oh, we lost $18,000 this quarter, but that's fine. But now, my grasshopper will be delivering cotton straight to Washington. And since the city will soon be big enough, which it already is, I can now place down a new industry. But it's not big enough to... It doesn't have no city in the area right now has a population big enough for clothing. So when that happens, I'm placing one down, because clothing is not available until recently. Which, that will cost $500,000. And we have our first engineer, Justin Clark. He has a 20% reliability bonus for locomotives, meaning that if I add it, the engine will break down less frequently. Well, the engineer will reduce the amount of time it needs for maintenance, while the fireman, or stoker, will basically increase the reliability. And look at that! We now have enough for our newest engine, the John Bull. This is actually what the John Bull looked like when it was brought over from England to the Camden and Amboy Railroad. It didn't have the front pilot truck, nor an enclosed roof over the tender. But since this is basically our very first new engine, I'm assigning the locomotive to freight service only. And look at that, covered cab. They'll increase the profits from mail by 3%. We also have our another security guard, Jesse Hill. And also, we earn enough points to unlock something new. Since we can't unlock the Dunham yet, we'll basically spend it for the personnel office, which allows me to basically increase the amount of applicants by 10%. And since the John Bull has arrived at its destination, it's now in the newspapers. John Bull conquers rail network, model railroads for real railroads. Now, the locomotive is operating on the North Central. But soon enough, the United States will basically start producing its own locomotives, and have no need to bring in some from the United Kingdom. Plus, there's actually a there's a dairy farm up here, oddly called Green Cattle. And I think delivering milk will basically be a very good revenue-earning option, as I could basically start producing cheese later on, which is basically called dairy products. I mean, I get it. Milk turns into cheese, but milk can also be made into butter as well. And we have yet another security guard, Dylan Moreno. I'll be going to put it in on the Portland to New York route. And we also have our first conductor, Jeremiah Warren. Or Warren, whatever. Oh. That has a negative effect for the security guard. If I have an employee that has a disagreement with one of another employee, Jones Flattery near Kansas City. Nope, too far. Ugh. Well, at least we managed to get back to 409,000. We had an increase of 24,000. But if I put the conductor onto this, they will eventually get into a fight and stop the train. And I do not want that to happen. Thankfully, there's no negative effect, nor a positive effect, but that's fine. And now that I earned enough money, I'll build a new tailor shop there. Meat factory in New Orleans. That might be useful for later, but for now, let's just stick to what we have connected to. And I plan to replace this tailor's with a lumber mill here. And now we have enough points to unlock the central shaft, which allows me to decrease the amount of money I need to spend on constructing tunnels. Since this industry is not producing anything, it's going to be quite cheap. But there's a bit of a problem. And we also have our first stoker, Adam Brewster, who has a speed bonus. Crews that have a speed bonus will increase the speed of your trains. I technically normally put engineers and stokers with a speed bonus on freights, and ones with reliability bonus on passenger trains. That way, the freight trains won't stay on the main line for too long in front of passenger trains, and if the passenger trains do break down, and passenger trains could basically stay in service longer. Seems like Washington's a little too crowded. Might as well increase the station. And there we have our 4-track station in Washington. And we also have enough room to basically add an attraction. We'll put this attraction site right here. I picture this to be like the White House, so to speak. Unfortunately, I spent so much money on the bonds, I don't have any money to basically pay back. But at the same time, I can now start transporting supplies to Washington. Well, I mean, New York. I can deliver some grain and some fruit to New York City. Connect the Thompson Estate Grain Farm and the Star Preserve Fruit Farm. Connect the double tracks, and then add the signals to make the line basically safe for operation. And there we go. 1 train of grain and 1 train of fruit for New York. And we also have enough points to unlock the Dunham 420. But I'm interested in getting this variant, the North America, which is basically an upgraded variant of the John Bull. But I don't have anything else to do with it right now. Oh, I made 543,000 in this quarter, an increase by 134,000. We also have our first engineer, Bill Dalton. Now I have can operate a full crew. And we also have our new environment engineer, Ryan Connor. Hopefully we might be able to get enough points to unlock the new locomotive pretty soon. I might as well run a grain train from the Moore farm to Charlotte, because that is very much important. Conductor, one with a mail bonus. I'll put another Charlotte to Washington line. And look, she has a positive attitude to my engineer, which instead of 20% now gives a 30% reliability bonus. We might be able to make it if we're lucky. And we got our new managed to get our new locomotive, the North America, aka the John Bull Mark II, and the one we know of. Repainted green as a front pony truck, front pony truck with a cow catcher and an enclosed tender cab with this little area here for the brakeman, as steam air brakes was not invented at this time. And now, the John Bull can basically run passenger trains with the John Bull Mark II can handle passenger trains, while the original John Bull, aka the Mark I, can handle freight trains for a while. And let's add this. Ooh, she doesn't like people who are dominant, so that's not gonna do so well. Oh, I set it for 5 instead of 6. And I believe that will basically do it for this episode, guys. So, we basically expanded our railroads down south towards Charlotte, and we're basically making a good amount of money on our weaving factory. We got clothes being made in Washington, and I think we'll basically have... Oh, darn, we don't have enough money to basically tear it down and replace it with a new industry. We might be able to in part 3. So, if you like this episode of Railway Empire, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Texas Gaming Industries for further future content. And I'll be seeing you very, very soon. Bye!